The name of the program is The Way to Go. I invite you to join me each week at this time as we explore places to go and things to do. Our subject today is music, and we have the perfect person to talk about music because today the executive director of the Music Conservatory of Westchester, watch it, Laura, I'm doing Calzolari. I told her I would have difficulty in remembering her name, but I haven't forgotten how to do it right, is here with us today. And we're going to talk about music and music in Westchester and performance in Westchester and some wonderful things that the Music Conservatory is doing. Laura, I'm so delighted that you could come here today. And this whole subject of music, I mean, you are the most prominent educator in the music field in Westchester County. But what's the status of music education in our schools? Is it in danger? Do we have a problem?
Yes and no. I think that we're on the upswing, moving away from many cuts, and certainly we've been very involved.
Cuts, you mean in funding?
Funding and then cuts in programs. We've been very involved with a number of school systems in helping them keep their music programs alive. In fact, we provide the only string instruction in both the Greenberg Central 7 and Rhinex schools. Because they wanted to keep a string program and facing cuts, found it difficult. We go in and do that. What I'm pleased about is a growing body of research that indicates what people like me have always known, is that instruction in the arts, and in music especially, because it's so discipline-based, this has benefits that extend far beyond mere appreciation of an arts form, and that help children develop regardless of where they're going to go in the long term. And it seems in the education field, particularly in public education, that nothing is meaningful until there's quantifiable research. Well, now there is some. So I think that we're seeing certainly a leveling off of the cuts and even of an improvement in new positions. Our own district, for instance, where I live in northern Westchester, added another string teacher.
It did.
This year.
Working with the school system as you are, is that part of your outreach program?
Yes, that's exactly right.
Mm-hmm. There's so much that you're doing that's beyond the confines of the walls in White Plains where you're located on Soundview Avenue, right?
That's right.
Mm-hmm. But it's so much beyond that. And I want to get into some of that today. Of course, this program is basically places to go and things to do. And one of the things that you've been doing is this jazz and cabaret series, and it's been excellent, hasn't it?
That's right, yeah.
And it's still ongoing.
Yep, that's right.
What has happened and what's in store?
Well, we began our fall series on November the 7th with Ken Wessel, who, by the way, was born and raised right here in White Plains, and he is a member of Ornette Coleman, who's a famous jazz musician. He's a member of Ornette's standing quartet. Kenny is a jazz musician and played with a fabulous Indian tabla player. Now, I'd never thought of anything like this. It was the most remarkable thing. I would define it as world jazz. It was truly wonderful. We have two remaining concerts. December 5th is M.J. Torito, who is a wonderful female vocalist who will do a cabaret program. And then on December the 7th, Carmen Leggio's big band. Carmen is well known in the Westchester area, and their big band will play.
Why do you do programs, performance? Basically, you're a school, you're an educator.
Right.
Why do you do performance?
We feel that we want to integrate performance into music education. And of course, music education requires student performances. But then above and beyond that, we do the jazz series. We do a big jazz fest event at SUNY Purchase in the spring, and then do faculty recital series in the spring as well, because we want to bring professional performances into our, if you will, environment as a way to highlight the education experience.
Education, that's the key word in what we're talking about. Now, I see by your literature that you start from 1.5 years.
Actually, 6 months.
6 months, and go all the way up. Of course, you're not teaching a 6-month-old how to play the trumpet. So how does it work? You're not just teaching how to play an instrument.
Right.
What are you teaching?
We teach basically the full range of all experiences that would be defined as instruction in music. In our young children's division, that includes all the established pedagogies for pre-instrumental instruction. There's something called Dalcroze, which is a system using spontaneous movement to music. In the simplest translation, you walk to quarter notes and run to eighth notes. Orff instruction, named for the German musicologist Karl Orff, uses a set of wonderful little tonal percussion instruments, and the kids have an ensemble experience.
Why teach children at 6 months, or a year and a half, or 2 years, music at this point?
All children love music, and you just see that on their faces. When they're 6 months, they are loving the music. What we're really doing is teaching the parents how to bring music into the regular upbringing, which, of course, way before TV and anything electronic, was a part of household life. I mean, you sang to your children, you sang as a family, you made music together because you couldn't turn on the TV. So if anything, we're sort of coming back to how to do that. But once again, research is showing that with very young children, the development of synapses, they did a project, I think...
What is that, synapse?
The neurosynapses in the brain. Children involved in music at a young age have more synapses, the more the better, apparently, than children that don't have this experience. And there was research done at one of the University of California locations that proved this.
You know, it's interesting, the fact that children love music. I have noted frequently when I go to concerts, informal concerts, whether they be at Kensico or Lyndhurst, or the other day I was at Westchester Community College where they had a klezmer concert, that the kids get up in front of the band, the orchestra, the group, and dance. They're not inhibited, and they're just shaking to the music, and that's what dancing's all about. But they're feeling the rhythm, they're feeling the music. And the parents are not only encouraging it, but the parents can't even hold them back. They just want to do it.
Well, in many cultures, you can't use the word music without also speaking of dance. I think that the movement is so closely aligned. And that, of course, as I mentioned, the Dalcroze method, that's basically the foundation of it. And I think it comes down to something that's of interest to me, a growing evidence that while in certain instances audiences are graying and shrinking, in many respects interest in music is as strong or stronger than it's ever been. People are interested in participatory experiences. Many community music schools like ours, that's how we define ourselves, are finding a growing enrollment among adults. They want...
Who want to learn how to play an instrument?
Right, or who played it and then had to put it aside, want to come back, want to learn a different kind of music. We have gone from having, I think, one evening jazz ensemble for adults as recently as 5 years ago to this year having 4 or 5 at least. And it's all people who play an instrument a little bit, had fairly standard training, and are interested in this thing called jazz, largely because it's improvisatory.
Yeah. I know all 3 of my children took lessons on different instruments, violin, trombone, piano, and none of them play. They love to play the instrument. And if you don't play by ear and you don't devote yourself to it and keep up with it, that goes by the board. And they all regret it, and that's the interesting part of it. They all regret it. But the next generation, I think, are all learning. I know that my daughter's child-sized violin is now being used by my granddaughter, my 6-year-old
That's great.
Granddaughter. So it does work that way.
Well, we're seeing a tremendous growth in enrollment. Our school is part of a national service organization called the National Guild of Community Schools of the Arts, and I've been privileged to be a trustee of that organization for some 6 years. We're seeing across the country a growth in enrollment because I think that families are now, after the late 80s where we sort of threw everything we possibly could at our children, and everything just being very sort of consumer oriented. I think there is a pullback, and people want to provide children with meaningful experiences. I'm delighted because we're there to give it to them.
Yeah, and you're giving a little more than that because you've got a major project underway now. I'd like to talk about that. I'm very excited about it, so why don't you explain what it is?
The Conservatory is taking a leadership role in the development of something that for a working title is being referred to as the White Plains Center for Arts and Culture. The concept behind this is that it would be an instructionally based facility where there would be a range of instructional programs. Not a professional performing arts center. We have one of those, a fine one at SUNY Purchase. That's a very different animal. A place where the whole family could come and take many different instructional activities, certainly beyond music, to include dance and drama, possibly fine arts. But also, I'm not opposed to any, what I'll put in the sort of cultural bag. Why not a chess club? Why not language clubs?
Going beyond what you're doing now, certainly.
Right, and that we wouldn't do all of that. This would be a consortial partnership with other organizations. So we were fortunate to apply for a grant to the National Endowment for the Arts, requesting funding for a feasibility study. Lo and behold, much to my surprise, not only we were funded to our full request, which is very unusual, but we were told we were one of the 2 most highly rated planning applications they'd gotten nationwide.
It's certainly gratifying, isn't it?
Terrific. And what the proof of that is the tremendous outpouring of support that we're receiving as we develop an advisory task force.
How is it proceeding? What's the next step?
Having gotten the grant, we then went through a process of identifying the right consultant to do it. And that was a tremendously instructive experience. We hired a wonderful team headed by Ferrandino and Associates, who are a local urban planning firm, but they assembled a team that includes Ernest Hutton, who is a nationally known arts planner, and Mark Strauss, whose architectural firm has designed arts facilities around the country. So we feel we are extremely well
working with
represented.
Professionals. You got a big task force working on it?
Wonderful task force. We were very concerned with getting representation in a broad range of expertises, constituents, so that we have business expertise and educational people, arts people, corporate representatives, really very, very broad-based. The first meeting of that task force will be this coming Monday.
Oh, well, I was going to ask you what the timetable is. When do you foresee all this happening?
Well, the study will be completed in 6 months. Meanwhile, the New York Times today, somebody accused me of planting this. I wish that I could. On the front page has a huge article about the arts being used in cities around the country to rejuvenate their downtowns. And White Plains is definitely ripe for this. And we've been, talking with the city a lot. I've gotten a tremendous help from the city. And I think that there's an understanding now that the arts do definitely have a role to play.
No question.
And as you may know, the city is going to designate a 6-block area of downtown as an urban renewal area. So I think while it may be up to 3 years before we actually moved in somewhere, I think where that's going to be and the parameters of it are likely to shape up within 9 months, say.
Really? And this is not just for White Plains. This is for the entire region.
Right. Though optimally, the Conservatory has been in White Plains for its entire 69-year existence, founded in 1929, I guess 68 years.
But your students are not all generally from White Plains.
Well, in fact, our students are from 102 communities in a 5-county area. One of the reasons we became interested in this expanded opportunity, as we looked at the need for a new building, we are tremendously out of space now, really dreadfully out of space, was that our a survey we did of our parents indicated that, yes, there was a decided interest for increased activities.
Mm-hmm.
Not only because they wanted it, but everyone said, please, anything to cut down on the driving. So the idea would be, I hate this term, but a one-stop shopping model
It
of
fits,
serving,
it certainly fits.
every kid in the family, the adults as well. And it turns out that this is being used, or plans like this, all across the country.
I want to get into some more of that in what you actually do at the Music Conservatory, but I first want to remind our viewers that we're talking today with Laura Calzolari, who is the Executive Director of the Music Conservatory of Westchester, with some wonderful plans for the future and some great things going on. But I do want to talk, I touched very briefly a few moments ago on the fact that I attended a klezmer concert at Westchester Community College, and that the kids were so-called dancing in the aisles, actually, in front of the four-piece group that was there. But they have some terrific programs. They have Italian dance program coming up on December 5th. They have world music, concerts, films. It's a wonderful place to go to. And if you want more information, the telephone number to call is 785-6262. And you might keep your paper handy, because I'm going to give you a couple more numbers now, some things that are happening, not so much in music, but in theater as well as in music. If you haven't discovered yet Fleetwood Stage in New Rochelle at Wildcliff, you must discover it. They did Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, which was exceptional, great reviews. I loved it. And the most recent play that they did was called The Real Thing. Great success on Broadway, won many Tony Awards, and the production here, rave review in the Gannett newspapers. They're doing Mass Appeal in February, and then Intimate Exchanges, which is Alan Ackburn. That's coming up in April. And to contact Fleetwood Stages, the number is 654-8533. And finally, before I get back to Laura, I do want to just briefly tell you that Westchester Broadway Theater is currently doing West Side Story, but if you want tickets before the holiday, it's too late, because they're sold out, believe it or not, through the end of this year. But they will be resuming with West Side Story on December 30th, and it runs through March 28th. Absolutely magnificent production. Something that you shouldn't miss if you love that show as I do. And the number there is 592-2222. And Laura, I just had to talk about these things because the opportunities in Westchester are so great, and people don't appreciate them. And I think that what you're doing enhances the understanding that there is so much of value here. Why don't people understand that they can get top flight performance right here in Westchester? What is it? What is the attitude?
Well, I think there are a lot of factors. If you mean that, do people think that because it isn't in New York, it isn't quality? I think that's just one of those problems we have to work to overcome, because it certainly isn't true.
Prejudice of fear. And some people are afraid to go into Manhattan, and they don't come here.
Many people, right, so they're not doing anything. To me, that's more the problem. If they're doing something, I'm not unhappy, but if I hear that people aren't doing anything, and many aren't, I think the TV's a lot to blame for it. I think that lifestyles have gotten so informal that people misunderstand not being familiar with a performance experience, think that it's going to be too formal. Somehow this isn't for me.
I don't know the answer. The cost is certainly lower than going into Manhattan. Parking is always available.
Oh, yeah.
And certainly the time involved.
I don't think it's just that they're not... I don't think it's only a choice about going into New York. I think a lot of people simply do not participate in live performing arts events, being it music, drama, or dance.
Is there anything else than live performance?
They don't participate in that at all. And that, to me, is what's disturbing. I think that the organizations who, by mission, are totally committed to the presentation of professional performances have to do some research as to why, have to look at making performances available at times that people are comfortable with and so forth. I think that where we saw the most dramatic declines in arts education in the schools were in the generation that are now young adults and young parents. In other words, considerably younger than I am. Those people who are now, say, 30, did not have much arts in the schools.
Yes.
Therefore, they have nothing.
Interesting point.
So there was sort of a break in the chain. They have nothing to base it on, and they don't see it as being for them. Though invariably, when you get people there, especially if they can share it with their children, the right experience,
Sure, that's the important part.
they just can't believe how wonderful it is.
But-
so the chore is to get
But
them.
isn't it true that people are coming to the music conservatory now because they haven't continued the instruments that they may have started with when they were younger?
Absolutely. And if they haven't had it, partly because of some of this research, they're also seeing this is something we definitely want our children to have.
Yes.
Though it is also interesting that when we surveyed our family, overwhelmingly, at least one member, one parent, had some sort of fairly significant instructional experience in music, and so very personally understood how important that was, and that was a meaningful.
Music is a tough career, certainly as a professional, isn't it? Now, you're a professional flutist.
It's not getting any easier.
Howard Herring, of course, who's the director at Caramore, your husband.
And someone I know well, right?
And someone you know well. You met interestingly in music, didn't you?
Right, we met at music school at the Manhattan School of Music, and I jokingly tell people that I married my accompanist so I wouldn't have to pay any anymore. It didn't really work quite like that.
But he was your accompanist.
Oh, yes, and we played in a chamber group together for years, and then just quite individually went into the management side, me into education, because I always loved teaching and saw what teaching music could do, and Howard into the presentation side.
And Caramore, of course, is worldwide reputation for the highest quality of performance there. It's a wonderful place to go to. I certainly can't talk about other places without talking about Caramore. You talk about going into education. The faculty at the Music Conservatory, are they all musicians?
Absolutely. And what distinguishes our faculty from a public school faculty is that ours are all specialists in their given instrument, or in the case of group classes, their given pedagogy, so that the violin teachers are professional violinists who only teach violin, so that you get that specialist attention. The other thing that I think is so meaningful about one-on-one music instruction is just that. It's the mentor-student relationship. When you think about it, public education, there's no one-on-one teaching except on a remedial basis. And it's really an unusual experience for children to work with one teacher.
But you work with music therapy, don't you?
Yes.
That's an important factor. How does that work?
Music therapy is a very important and largest component of our outreach program. In fact, it is called the Music Therapy Institute. We are now the largest provider of outreach music therapy services in the greater metropolitan New York area. We serve 1,000 disabled individuals a week in group classes that's of varying disabilities and varying agencies.
Would you define what music therapy is?
Music therapy is one of the creative arts therapies, and they are defined through their training, the training of a music therapist, in a combination of proficiencies in various areas of music with clinical psychology, so that they have a dual knowledge, and they use music, or in the case of the other arts therapies, that arts form, to access an individual's full potential, circumventing what may be the underlying deficiencies or problems. And basically the way it works is that music and all creative arts are right-brained activities, whereas normal cognitive development are left-brained activities. So that by introducing the right brain activity, music, in the hands of the trained therapist, you can stimulate left brain It's phenomenal.
It's a
And
fabulous
research has
subject.
begun to
Fabulous subject.
prove
One
this.
of the thing, I'm sure it's much more detailed than we have the time to do today. So what I want to do is make sure that from people who want more information will know where to go. Let's give the telephone number that people can call to find out about everything that you're doing, about your classes,
Right.
about the therapy, about your outreach program. Let's give that telephone number right now.
In Westchester, of course, area code 914-761-3715.
Let's repeat that, and then we're going to put it up in the closing
Great.
credits as well.
914-761-3715. And I was about to say, we're old-fashioned enough that one phone number will actually get you a human voice.
I was amazed.
Don't have to
hear
wade
that.
through voicemail.
Yes, why don't you have someone who answers the phone and says, you have reached a real person?
There are many advantages to electronic phones. I find that in our kind of business, not being able to initially contact a living, breathing human being to be unconscionable. And as long as I'm director, a living human being will answer the phone.
Well, it's really nice to have a living, breathing human being like you on the program. There's so much that you have to talk about. There's so much that you have to provide. I know that you're planning to do your own television program on this station, and it'll just be great for people to be able to listen to you and talk some more and expand on the subject we've covered. And I thank you so much for being here today and being my guest and saying so much for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We've talked about music in Westchester, the Music Conservatory of Westchester. Music is great. Enjoy it. Enjoy yourself. I'm Norman Liss. The name of this program is The Way to Go. And as usual, I close with enjoy yourself.